Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching India Fights Back with your host Kriti Mishra. Centre has decided that every district should now have its own oxygen plant in order to secure supplies. Government has announced in principle approval for 551 dedicated pressure swing absorption medical oxygen generation plants to be set up in identified government hospitals in district headquarters across the country using the PM CARES funds. Separately, the Home Ministry issued an order directing states to use all available liquid oxygen for medical purposes. The basic aim behind establishing the plants at government hospitals in the district headquarters is to further strengthen the public health system and ensure that each of these hospitals have a captive oxygen generation facility. And to discuss India's strategy to boost oxygen distribution, I'm joined by Dr. Raman R. Gangakhedkar, Member National Task Force for COVID-19, and Dr. Dhruv Chaudhary, State Nodal Officer for COVID-19 pandemic in the state of Haryana. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Dr. Raman, coming to you first. Government has ordered setting up of 551 oxygen plants inside government hospitals across the country. PM CARES funds will provide the financial aid in setting up these plants. Your opening comments, sir.
Setting up plants at district level for generating oxygen is something which is a welcome step. No? At the same time, one must realize that these steps are going to yield fruits maybe after some delay, that your time that you will require to establish that and make it functional. But what is most important to remember is this time it is not only that we are trying to augment capacity on a long-term basis, but it is also being ensured that you are providing oxygen concentrators. You are also trying to provide, ensure that the transport for taking oxygen to those areas which need it is also being facilitated. So to me, it's a comprehensive kind of a step that is being taken, which is also taking care of the future needs that one would face. Perhaps because of the district level plants, the one thing which will happen is those places where perhaps this outbreak may become more severe after some time would be very much benefited, because they will be able to provide care to people and they may not be having a problem like we have currently about oxygen being provided.
Dr. Chaudhary, what is your take on government's decision?
You see, it's better late than never. I think it has come up, ideally should have been anticipated and should have been nearly, I feel, in the month of January or so, in anticipation of a second wave. I'm very clear on it. But nevertheless, it's a very welcome step, as Dr. Gangakhedkar has said. We need to go ahead with it. Because I remember the time, and I will remember his ex-boss, Dr. Vishnu Mohan Katoch, the man who was established at that time with the DGICMR, the VDRL lab, sir. That has stood the test of the time. I think it will go a long way in terms of improving the infrastructure of the district hospitals, and it will be in alignment of the Government of India's budget declaration to have intensive care units in the district hospitals. So probably both things will have to come together, and when they work together, probably in the long term, can take the critical care services. Like this time we are facing the oxygen crisis. And trust me, it is not a crisis per se because of production. There has been a sudden acute surge of the demand because of the large number of cases, because the way the tsunami has come up. So acute surge took place, but simultaneously, what is very important, it has highlighted not only the the capacity, which probably is adequate, the logistics of maintenance of it. That will be taken care to a very large extent, because we are still depending upon cryogenic tankers. They cost around 40-45 lakhs per tanker. So people have used it that way. Now we have to find out right now to tide over in NCR to Mumbai or to the places which are now, this epidemic is rampaging at this point of time, are short-term measures also. Concentrators will come up, fair enough. Other things will come up, fair enough. But we have to mitigate the things by ensuring reducing the turnover times of tankers, and at the same time, seeing it more tankers somewhere the areas which are not needed are pressed into service.
All right. So, of course, the understanding is that this move will ensure that the system goes a long way in ensuring that government hospitals in the districts do not face sudden disruption of oxygen supplies. But moving on, Dr. Raman.
Remember one thing.
You wanted to make a point. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, that a large number of support is provided by the small private hospitals. Therefore, when we are creating these infrastructures, we should also ensure, because majority of the supplies in the large hospitals we are seeing LMOs, but in the smaller hospitals still the manifolds are run by the cylinders. Therefore, from the liquid station, we should be able to ensure adequate widespread distribution of gas to the smaller nursing homes, hospitals, because they are taking probably equal or more load than the larger hospitals. When you start combining small hospitals, like in my state, in my city of Rohtak, we are having, let's say, 400, 500 beds. Right now, we are dedicating 1,000. In the private, I was calculating, we are having more than 350 cases on oxygen in different institutions. So it's important. And secondly, not only you look at it from the perspective of city, see it in the form of zone. And when I looked at the data, nearly 30 to 40% people are from Delhi. So you are seeing is that we have to ensure establishment of infrastructure, not only in the district hospitals, ensuring it equity so that private sector also gets it. And at the same time, we work at a zonal coordinated level so that like it in NCR is a one zone in terms of economy. There may be two different states. So we have to work together and the three states have to coordinate. Only then these things will mitigate. Otherwise, again, there will be a turf war which will start and will be a problem.
Absolutely. Dr. Ganga Khetkar, you wanted to make a point?
I didn't want to make a point, but since you asked me, Dr. Chaudhary tried to use a term tsunami. Many people are using the term tsunami. I tend to be a little worried when we pass a moment for people to reflect upon. When you say tsunami, perhaps we also connote our helplessness. For tsunami, it's helplessness. I think we need to say very strongly, wherever we are, we can still fight. Only then we can bring a change. Otherwise, people will say, no, we have that cultural fatalism. No, ab to kya tsunami aa gaya, main chale jaunga.
And I agree with you, Dr. Ganga Khetkar. And I always say we have to rise like a phoenix and we have to start fighting from inside. Support from outside when we'll come up can only chip in. But ultimately we have to support and we have to rise and do it.
Now, the sole reason why I'm trying to say this on a national TV is if there are people who keep on coming to TV and start using the word tsunami, perhaps, we need to understand how it is comprehended by a layperson, and what could be a potential impact.
So we have to unite, of course, and give a very tough fight to this COVID-19 pandemic. But moving on and talking about another important decision, Dr. Ganga Khetkar, the government has also decided to grant full exemption from basic customs duty and health cess on import of oxygen and related equipment for 3 months. Sir, the impact of this decision on augmenting supplies according to you?
No, there will be definite benefit that will accrue to you because now you are increasing the suppliers market. However, as Dr. Chaudhary indicated, there is no dearth of oxygen being produced, but it is transportation related issue that is becoming more important, for which the government is also trying to take care of it. They have employed that you could pick it up by Air Force and deliver it at certain depots. You could also use trains and bring oxygen to different cities. They have also roped in agencies to transport the same. All these steps are comprehensive. It's just that we need to prioritize where the supplies and how they will be delivered in a very objective and evidence-based manner. Then perhaps we will be able to make difference. Because my bigger scare there is, now that everybody is hearing about the woes related to oxygen, whether in Delhi, whether in Pune, or whether in whichever place. Now what happens is the other states, where the outbreak may not be so severe, they also start hoarding, supplies. they don't want to share their own supplies. No, those issues will have to be handled as effectively, because they might also place a demand that these trains should come to my place in order to augment their capacity. But we need to be rational and objective, because we have to first mitigate where it is hitting us hard and badly enough, and then go over to other places, because you are talking of one molecule for which we never thought the entire community will have to struggle to get one.
Absolutely, sir. You made two very important points. One, of course, about transportation and logistics. And we just discussed that in a bit, but you also talked about rationalizing the demand. Dr. Chaudhary, today Center has, of course, said that the states also need to rationalize their demand. What's the way ahead?
You see, most important thing when you are looking at this is, I think let me two things first clear. We are talking of industrial grade oxygenation. We are talking of medical grade oxygenation. If you see, there is a very fine difference. In fact, if you go by the industrial grade oxygenation, you need nearly 99% purity if you want to use it. For the medical grade in the IPs, we need 93% plus above. So I think that distinction is more of a semantics than from the practical perspective. That is one part. Second part, which is very important, is in terms of rationalization. You see, we need to cut down the demand. What we are seeing is the line losses people are not aware about in the hospital. Ideally, we should have a line loss of less than 5%. That is bound to happen. People are very casual, because when the things start getting you normally, nobody bothers about it. Now people have realized the importance of it. The first and foremost thing that every single institution worth the name, public or private, must do an oxygen audit within their own institutions. Know exactly what are the target sets, what are the parameters set, what is the line loss. And I was talking to the people concerned, line losses on an average are more than 20%. Now, if you reduce it by 15% or so, suddenly you realize that if I have you increase the supply by 15% times. So that is what we have to see and ensure it. And probably, I think it's a time also for the government of all the state governments and the large corporate organizations to have a good biomedical equipment department with them to ensure quality. And simultaneously, I think it should be part and parcel and mandatory to constantly keep on coming with oxygen audit. And it should become our habit, because in India, like UK or West, we are not very comfortable with audits. Audits are to improve, not to penalize.
Absolutely. So audits are to improve efficiency. But Dr. Ganga Khetkar, you were also talking about the supplies of oxygen and transportation. So we've seen in the recent past, as the demand has increased, oxygen is being transported by air, rail, and road. The Indian Air Force, the Indian Navy, Indian Railways are chipping in to transport oxygen. How do you analyze India's oxygen distribution strategy, sir?
No, see, we are trying to first go as firefighters, and at the same time we are trying to augment our capacity on a sustainable basis and long-term basis as such. Now, when you think in terms, what do I exactly mean by rational and evidence-based approach? Even if you think in terms of, transporting oxygen by Air Force, transporting it through train, and perhaps using cryogenic trucks or whatever you would like to use for. Now, what is important to recognize is where is the need that is highest. Where is the immediate need for oxygen? I might deploy Air Force. No, but the place must also have for landing an airport available there, or a nearby place where you could be transporting. So what I'm trying to say is we need to look at vulnerabilities of the place, the demand that is there, what are the enablers that I would require, and how quickly can I mitigate that impact. That plan has to be always ready, because this is not the first time this is going to occur. No, it is possible that if, unfortunately, if we don't change, if people continue to not adhere to the COVID appropriate behavior and the numbers increase dramatically here, what might happen? You may either have a sustained demand that would be generated out of hospitalizations, or even if we curtail everything, even if we bring it down the second wave and we relax again as we did earlier, then you would still have a third wave to handle. So to my mind, having a rationalized approach, mapping where the needs could arise, trying to develop criteria where perhaps I need to supply the fastest. How do I calculate that part? Would be ensuring that we are ready to combat the battle of any place wherever oxygen supplies continue to be in threat in an appropriate manner.
Dr. Ganga Kedkar, if you permit me to add to it, you see, this approach will not only for the oxygen, this is practically for the drugs also. So what we need now to have a central plan, state plan, regional plan, and the coordination between them. I think that is the key. That is what it has taught us. Now, let's say tomorrow there is a problem in the UP. UP is so big, it could be Western UP today and it could be Eastern UP. Then I should be able to send my resources from Haryana to help them out. Or similarly, if something has gone down to Rajasthan, we have to go up. So we need to have that dynamic and flexibility which is there. You need to take that army's command approach in this, where you can have, let's say, supply depots. You have some amount of reserves for the disaster management purposes. And trust me, it's not going to go away. You will have a third wave. Tomorrow you will have something else. Again, we will be doing it. I think it's a time for the nation as a whole to do a strategic thinking, strategic planning, and along with it, making spoke and hub models so that when need arises, we immediately roll out the plans. That is what is needed. So by getting things, they make the very good visual things that we are having oxygen. Something is done, that's good. But end of the day, it is the road transport which is the key, which will take it from the main head to the places where it is going to be having the delivery. That is why the Government of India's program to have installed capacities within the institutions of the government is a very welcome step. And similarly, government must direct now the corporate hospitals also, or a conglomeration of them, to actually have now in-house these oxygen generating capacities. It's not only the government, because 60 to 70% healthcare delivery is by the private sector. And if you see the highest end of the care, therefore it is the government is providing it fine. But equal onus and responsibility now today on the private sector also is to create that infrastructure so that tomorrow the sort of outages and the images, which is putting a very bad name because in spite of having everything, should not be seen.
Absolutely, sir. You're talking about strategic planning and also you're talking about the private sector. This reminds me that Prime Minister also had a meeting with leading oxygen manufacturers and industries, diverting their oxygen supply for medical use and discussed utilizing their full potential to meet the demand in the coming days. That also would be a very, very important move.
I think that is there. End of the day, they are producing it. So I think it's a national asset. There is nothing in the private sector or the public sector. It's a national asset. We have to work together as a team. And I think in the short term, if we can get the oxygen concentrator, you look at it, the black marketing which is happening, thing which was available 25,000, now 70,000, 80,000. Even if I import oxygen generators, people do it. Unless or until we will not show a national character that at the time of calamity, stand at it, ethics, morals, values. I think whatever may you do, it will not be enough. And the government should come with a heavy hand on those people who are indulging in black marketing of oxygen concentrators, equipment, or the medicine. Sir.
We also have to fight, Dr. Raman, this unsubstantiated rumors on social media platforms or on our WhatsApp messages. And of course, the center has been constantly saying that even the various state governments have also appealed that citizens need not panic and follow the protocol that is in place, and that COVID patients do not have to rush to the hospital just because of the fear and adopt home isolation, which is more effective in some way or the other, unless of course the patient is critical. So that patience actually is the key and not panic, sir.
Oh, I agree completely. I think what is most important for all of us to understand, no, today you have a divided society. On one side, what you see, people tend to panic a lot, no, and they are demanding all kinds of things, including oxygen or whatever, even if it is not required. On the other side, you have people who don't care. They tend to live as if there is no COVID in the world. And what is most important, if you see both the spectrums, it perhaps tells you only one thing: there is panic, there is people are living in unreal world. Now, what do I need to do? I need to ensure that the community accepts that we are at war with this particular virus. And when it is at being war, no, it is extremely critical to not to have a panic set in, because you have to become more rational when you are fighting a war. You don't have to look back as to which things could have been corrected. Neither, you should be thinking of imagined kind of situations which could be disastrous. So we have to bring in some kind of sanity. Tell people, yes, it is here. Not everybody is going to die if they develop COVID infection. Even most of the patients are not going to require oxygen. If there are 100 odd people, look at the small proportion that requires oxygen. But your fears that he may or she may require oxygen drives you to buy oxygen and put those cylinders at home. No, that's a useless approach. We are creating furthermore, shortage of oxygen unnecessarily. Oxygen is very much available to those who actually require it, and it is important to believe that majority are not going to require oxygen. Trust that word. Don't put pressures on doctors because you think your patient is very precious, so he is not even giving oxygen. That's not the case. Don't panic. We have to reduce panic.
In fact, home isolation is the way forward. That's what we have been looking at it to mitigate it. And I can say on the national TV straight away that out of 100, what Dr. Guleria said, I'm reinforcing it, 90 people will not need it. Rest of the 10 persons who are there, they need little more close monitoring. The only thing what has happened is that because there was a sudden surge, so everything got crowded together. If this would have happened over 3 months period, you would not have seen this sort of an issue. And secondly, I think what is required from your offshoot when we're discussing about oxygenation is a fairly large number of people can be managed with simple oxygen, plain concentrators at home if need be. But you need to have a good home isolation teams. That is what we need to strengthen. And in one area where I need, along with oxygenation, I have to strengthen right now is a home isolation care.
Of course, sir, and that is the most important factor. How do we allay the concerns, the fears of the people?
Concerns are genuine because when you show it every day on the television, if the death and destruction is demonstrated right in the shown in your drawing rooms, bedrooms, your living rooms, what impact it is going to have on you. Therefore, the point I am saying is the media needs to show it, but show it with the sensitivity that instead of creating a panic, they create awareness. What we are finding right now at this point is complete mayhem as the whole system is broken down. Yes, system is under extreme stress. It's about to do it, but trust me, we enough have resilience to retrieve it, do it. The only thing what Dr. Ganga Khetkar has said is that the people who are in the field, they need to be little strengthened by a supply and augmentation of next 3 to 4 days. You do it, you will see the semblance of order coming up.
Dr. Ganga Khetkar, I just have 30 seconds on the show. Your closing comments, sir.
I think my closing comments is panic is bad. We don't need to look at the numbers or need to look at every person who gets detected with this particular infection. He need not think that now he is closer to his final journey. No, you are going to survive. You don't need oxygen every time. Government will try to make the best possible efforts, but don't panic and demand unnecessary things. Trust your doctors, trust your hospitals. Then they are trying to save your life. They are not your enemies. No, they will try to do their best. So just trust them. Please don't panic and don't watch TV often. No, most often, all those stories that you see not only make you depressed, but suspect everything that you perhaps should not have had. No, if you give rational information, the entire rational information gets, masked by what do they see outside, and then they feel, oh, Doordarshan must be telling something which is a government propaganda. Others are telling the reality. I think we need to have a balanced approach, so don't panic.
And of course, they can watch our show here. And of course, remember, as we've been saying all along, that patience and not panic is the key to handling this COVID-19 crisis. On that note, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So that's all we had for you in today's edition of India Fights Back. But before that, let me remind you once again to stay safe from the coronavirus pandemic. Remember to wear a face mask and wash your hands and face regularly, and ensure that you maintain physical distancing. whenever you're stepping outside. These simple precautions are all it takes to defeat this pandemic. Take care. Goodbye.